Spelling tests for a century of pandemics. This is an odd thing because it's not exactly a poem. It's a list of spelling words. I got a commission from an artist in Olympia named Lucy Gentry, and she wanted something during lockdown that would go in the window of her gallery. People weren't able to go inside of galleries, but they could walk on the outside. So she wanted something that would catch their attention. And I thought, well, what can I do with poetry that'll make people stop and think? I'm not entirely certain where I got the idea, but I decided to look at spelling lists for third graders over the years. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do a comparison of something, what periods are going to be interesting? I'll start with COVID because that's the time that we're in during this lockdown. And what's comparable? Well, there was an HIV/AIDS pandemic, and there was also the 1918 flu pandemic. So I looked at spelling lists for 1920, 1980, I think, and 2020. And what I found is that there are apparently words that people think that third graders should know. They have consistently. And the words that came up in each of the lists that I found were family, freedom, justice, community, the kinds of words that communicate to kids that it's important for us to be together and to work together. But what I also found was that the lists were political, and you wouldn't think that spelling words are political, but in 1918, there was the word, it just left me. Pandemic, essentially. They didn't call it that. What did they call it? I'll think of that. But pandemic for 2020, epidemic, global for the HIV/AIDS period. And so those are political. There were nursing terms in each of these times, and there were sort of emotional response terms. And so I thought it would be really interesting for people to stop and look at that. And in this case, for P3, what we had was this list and a woman who was a textile artist who looked at the words and came up with something that she found really moving, where she used these African textiles. What was also interesting is that she had been a 5th grade spelling champ, so I didn't know that, but there you go. So there's not a lot more for that one, but I just found it very interesting that 3rd grade spelling words are a communicator of politics and national pride and instruction to kids about the kinds of behaviors that they should engage in that will stimulate and fortify community.